The Dr. Taz Show, the podcast. Dr. Taz, Superwoman Wellness. Here's Dr. Taz.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Superwoman Wellness, where you know that I am determined to bring you back to your superpowered self. Joining me today is Danny Neifert. She is a holistic licensed esthetician who, of course, is going to talk to us about one of the most important organs in our body, our skin. It's actually also the largest. Danny has a strong relationship with nature, and she is informed, which has informed and guided her understanding of how our skin heals. She's had the privilege of working with thousands of faces over her 20 years of experience in the skincare and natural product formulation industry. Her focus on the power of natural products began in her place of birth on the Navajo Reservation in Monument Valley, Utah, where she was raised with a respect for the environment and its offerings. She is the author of Relearning Skincare, The Story of Skin, and The New Way, where she is a fresh voice and a visionary for skin health providers and enthusiasts everywhere. Welcome to the show, Danny. So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Were you really born on a reservation, a Navajo reservation?
I was, and I did not spend my entire childhood there. My parents were Quaker educators.
Ah, okay.
Radical kind of, radical, movement where they wanted to like really make a difference in the world. And so I was born and spent part of my childhood there. I didn't, but the people in that land impacted me tremendously. And we moved, to a place near the reservation after, midway through my childhood. But I definitely feel impacted by that, and it informed the rest of my life in ways that I feel like they're still unfolding.
Yeah. How old were you when you were there?
We moved. How old was I? Well, my older brother was born there, and then I was born there, and then somewhere around age 6 or 7, we moved away.
The only reason I ask you that, it's incredible because you can have the shortest experience in a place or in a moment of your life, and it has the greatest impact. Because for me, it was our family's trip to India, and I was 9 or 10, and I'd not been there ever. And to go from here to there, it really shaped probably the next decade of what I thought about and how I felt about the world and things like that. It's fascinating to me. And we were only there for 3 weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, but it was enough to have that strong impact. So what is that impact when it comes to skincare? What is it that they have right when it comes to skincare and nature that we don't really get or we don't understand?
Yeah, well, it's this principle of everything has a meaning and a place, and this overall harmony. And that's what I've named my business after, Skin Harmonics. But I do want to say that the whole unfolding of what I do and what I specialize in now with skin is I consider myself a skin texture and health expert, which is very this niche within the skin industry. And I feel like it's been very much of a scavenger hunt and an adventure that has unfolded for me over a period of years and years and years, beginning, at my place of birth. But I became a young mother, and I was just drawn to smells and textures, and I'm a double Cancer. And so like aromatherapy and all of those things, I have this innate attraction towards.
Yeah, of course.
I basically just stuck with it. So I feel like when I think back at my origin, I had no idea, no clue, just a bunch of impressions. And I feel like my method and what I specialize in now did not solidify until about 10 years ago. So it's been just this lifelong learning of applying myself to this niche of skin health. And I've been worked through different, like the clinical methodology, natural methodology, my place of birth, philosophy, influenced by having Quaker parents, which we're a non-violent type of folks. And all of that kind of congealed. And what I've developed now is this very specific detoxification and resurfacing method that can correct skin, but without the use of astringents and without the use of all of the trauma-based procedures that are so that, you know, they monopolize the industry basically.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to anti-age, then you're looking at chemical peels, microdermabrasion, um, lasers,
Yep.
microneedling, like the whole list. And what they all have in common is they're all trauma-based procedures. They're all using this philosophy of harming to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm challenging. And something that happened maybe 15 years ago that was a really big deal for me is that I discovered something called dermal nutrients.
Hmm.
And what I discovered, and that was something I couldn't make in my kitchen. I
Yeah.
mean, I made everything, everything under the sun has been
Yeah.
made in my kitchen.
Uh-huh.
I invented things, you
Oh my
know, but
gosh.
what I couldn't do was what these dermal nutrients can do. And so it changed everything, flipped my world upside down. And I emerged with, what if we fed our skin instead of harmed it? Because
Mhm.
what's becoming more and more evident, and what has become obvious to me, oh, after all of these years, slowly watching, slowly observing, slowly working with all different types of skin, all different background, colors, economic backgrounds, all of it, is that procedures that routinely harm and dissolve our skin will age us faster
Oh, wow.
and disharmonize, throw out of balance our skin.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's break this down because I'm just as guilty of being in that trauma procedure world, a huge fan of hydrofacials and some of those type of things. I had really bad, a part of my journey into integrative medicine was because, and I didn't know it at the time, was because I had pretty bad acne and from PCOS and polycystic ovarian syndrome, along with hair loss and all that other stuff. And so for years, like in my 20s, I would get those peels because that's all that would like clean everything out, and didn't know about diet, didn't know about gut, didn't know about all this other stuff that's connected to what our skin, it tells us. So all of that has since corrected pretty dramatically, but thinking that I'm doing right by my skin, I do some of those procedures, dermaplaning, hydrofacial,
Microneedling.
microneedling, there we go, microneedling, all that stuff. So in your niche, as you described it as a skin texture repair esthetician, a detox expert, like what are those are harming the skin and they're aging the skin more rapidly, which my mom would say, she was like, we never did this stuff. This is so bad. She's got great skin. This is so bad for us. But and so what is the alternative? You talked about dermal
Right,
nutrients. You talked
right. Dermal.
about like, with skin aging, there's a little bit of anxiety with women, right? Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, there's a line. Oh my God, there's this, there's a pore, there's this anxiety. So you want to go do the procedure because it's kind of like a quick fix. So what is sort of the alternative that you're suggesting people should be following?
Yeah. Well, I haven't, I have exactly the plan, but just to backtrack one little step, I participated in chemical peels and microdermabrasion. I myself spent years buying equipment and doing all of that.
All that
And the
stuff. Yeah.
only reason I feel like I know what I know is because I lived it. I received
Mhm.
those treatments
Mhm.
and I gave those treatments. So there's some level of like forgiveness.
Yeah.
There's also a level of like, aha, like what else? And that was the big, so much turmoil and difficulty with me in my career of like, well, I'm just going to stop because I'm just hurting people and I can see that I am. But the alternative is very simple. Like, it's so simple. It's basically feeding our skin with something called dermal nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
It's raising water levels. It's doing something called barrier restoration. And barrier restoration is a really fancy way of saying to use a heavier moisturizer,
Hmm.
um, to mimic our acid mantle, to exaggerate and mimic, because without a heavier moisturizer that leaves some sort of like, it's an oil or a lipid that leaves a residue, all of the water in our skin evaporates. And so that's what our natural oil production is supposed to do. It's supposed to trap water in our skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the restoration of that barrier, even for acne skin, even if you think you were born with the hugest
Right.
pores of the planet. That entrapment of water is it's basically the only way we can hydrate our skin. And so the formula is really that simple. It's water, food, shelter, which is the barrier restoration. And then the final piece is release. There's this returning that our skin does goes back to permeability and reclaiming the way that skin is supposed to be. And it gets soft and permeable, and it goes through a temporary detox, because what happens with all of the astringents and trauma is the skin becomes static, dehydrated, and kind of pressed and cemented down. And there's like this fake happy that's happening with people's skin, where it's kind of like frozen down, you know, and it's basically just suppressed because of all the trauma and lack of water. So if we remove the trauma, feed it instead, raise water levels, the skin becomes really dynamic and alive in a way that I've never seen before.
Wow.
And it starts reorganizing itself, and it starts releasing congestion. Because what I also found is so ironic is, like, we're all so obsessed with like dirty skin, congestion, acne, blackheads. And in that over efforting, we've astringed our skin, we've dehydrated, we've scrubbed it. The congestion is not going away, it's building up underneath. And so on the surface, in some people, at some point, you start to notice the congestion, because sometimes at some point you're not 20, you're not 30, not even 40 anymore. When the water levels go down, you can see the rocks in the river, so to speak. And that's where I've done so much, and that's where I've done my best work, and where I've invented this method, because I've gone in and tried to fix problems with skin and started stepping out of the box and questioning the whole dang thing. And emerged with this other method where I don't even type skin the way that, like, oily skin, combination skin, all of that's like useless. I mean, those are all observations that might be all real and true, but they're not going to help with returning our skin back to skin again.
So is there
there's so much we can do.
Yeah, is there a way to measure, like, again, so many of us are data driven, or we want to know our type, or we want to know like a diagnostic tool or something like that. Is there a way to measure water levels in the skin? Is there a pH test, or?
Well, there is. I think, I mean, over the years, I've bought every device in the aesthetic market. I think at one point I owned a thing where you press it to the skin and it tells you water levels. I can look and feel its skin and know exactly what's happening with skin. I mean, that's a luxury and a privilege that I have where I'm at. But I would say 9 out of 10 people or more have dehydrated skin chronically and don't know if they have it. Until they have hydrated skin, they don't know or feel the difference. And drinking water internally is really important, and that should be happening all the time. But what I'm referring to is topical hydration. The water level, how much your skin at the surface level is holding onto water and is saturated water, because that's what holds our pore canals open. That's what plumps up fine lines. Hydrated skin is way more able to deal with external factors. If you take away water, it's like, I mean, water is life and it's fundamental. Like nothing, you could be throwing, you know, the most expensive thing at your skin. But if you're not hydrated in a fundamental way, like, it doesn't matter. And that's what I found with my system is I've built a system to lock down foundational skin health, like hyperpigmentation, a lot of things can be perfected, and I'm not saying there's no good products on the market. It's just that if we're not doing it from a place of foundational health, go ahead and buy that $200 serum. Like, good luck. Go buy that $400 moisturizer. Good luck. Because nothing's happening until that baseline is raised. And that's what I found over and over and over again through the years. And that's why I had people combining 3 and 4 serums and all this stuff. And now I've created 7 products where it's this synergistic system. It's ultra simple. There's every skin type can be loved and taken care of, and, radically, its health, radically improved by locking down these basics of water, food, shelter, which would need the barrier restoration, and then allowing this release of all the stuff that's been built up from chronic dehydration or trauma procedures over the years.
So if we're not doing, okay, so water, we understand, trapping moisture, we understand, feeding, what are the top foods you think are necessary for good skin health? Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm talking topically. So diet, internal diet wise, I mean, I've been on every diet. I'm always trying everything out. So that aside, there's something called retinaldehyde, and there's something called phosphacetylcholine. And retinaldehyde is the bioavailable form of vitamin A.
Okay.
It's the type of vitamin A that your skin recognizes and can metabolize immediately. It doesn't have to be converted like retinol or retinoic acid. And then the phosphacetylcholine is a liposomal delivery where it's encapsulated and takes it all the way into the dermis where it's released.
Gotcha. And that's a great phospholipid, definitely. So that is repairing the skin barrier for sure.
And delivering and releasing food.
Gotcha.
In a real way, because I mean, I've made every skincare product under the sun, and I'm an aromatherapist, and so I've blended everything. And I've broken it into two categories where there's skin conditioners. Those are herbs, those are antioxidants, fantastic. But there's no substitute for food.
Right.
And then you have dermal nutrients, which do something that nothing else can do. It actually gives your skin the nutrients to make new skin cells. And that's a game changer, because that means we don't have to smack our skin around and traumatize our skin to getting it to make new skin cells. And that's the fundamental of the clinical approach. The American clinical medical approach is you harm to heal. You smack the skin so it jumps up and makes new skin cells. That's all great and good, except for that takes a toll long term on our skin.
Wow. Well, for women that have been doing those procedures for a long time, can they reverse it? Can they change the course of?
Absolutely. I mean, it's never too late, never, ever, ever. And it would just be about, switching tracks. And I myself had to switch tracks because I had a spa where I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment and chemical peels, which I kept around for a while I was experimenting. But at some point I had to just say, there's really no place for this.
Wow.
It's a really hard corner to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I personally took it business wise and individually, because I submitted myself to all of those procedures.
Right.
And I haven't looked back, because when you start feeding the skin in this really, really profound way, miracles happen. I mean, it's extraordinary how it's just, the irony is just will never leave me, of how we're anti-age, unclog our pores, our pores. In our caveman attempts to do that, we've made it worse.
Wow. And then
however,
yeah,
but when you can, I've seen it. I've seen my own skin transform, and I've watched so many people's skin transform at this point. All it takes is stopping and beginning in the right way. Even though there's sometimes sometimes it might feel like, for people that have a lot of congestion in their skin, they go through a temporary phase where it can feel like you're going backwards, but you're not. You're going forwards, and your skin has to let go of things that just, are not supposed to be in the skin.
So water, the right food, topical moisture, phosphatidylcholine. You mentioned that, retinaldehyde. Are there other dermal nutrients we should be thinking about?
No, I mean, at this point, these ingredients, the retinaldehyde and the phosphacetylcholine, they're patented. And so that's another reason mainstream people just don't know about them. You have to go through a specific source to get them. And so at some point, I mean, who knows what's going to happen to the future of that?
Yeah.
but but I just know that it's so cliche in the skin industry. And it's like, I always have to roll my eyes and like,
Yeah.
nourish. Everybody wants to nourish the skin. It's all about nourishing. And it's like, you come so jaded in a point. I mean, 20 plus years in the skin industry. Like I was just like, oh God. But when you really feel it and see it and watch what real nutrients can do, it's a game changer. Like I basically, you know, changed and developed a whole new everything. It's a whole new organizing factor to have a way to really nourish our skin.
Wow. So what procedures should we be doing if we are interested in?
No, that's a really good question. That I have a whole list of no's. And I have a list of maybes. I have a list where it's like, let's come in and garnish like a parsley sprig. It's not like I'm a Nazi about like, we can't ever do these. It's more like, let's pin down this foundation and then see where we're at. But the thing that people are not getting is they're not getting their skin cleaned out for real all the way. And they're not getting dermal nutrients in their daily care or in a service. So, and I would say that the microcurrent technology is really fantastic. And I think acupuncture for the face is really good.
Yeah.
And face yoga is really good. Facial massage is really good. But the rule is that anything that's harming your skin, like abrasively, or anything that's drying out or harming your skin is taking you in the wrong direction. You might get the burst of new skin cells, but not enough to recoup the long-term detriments of the skin cells that it just hurt.
Wow. Gotcha.
And then I would say extractions, because when people's skin really heal, it releases stuff. And so people are not getting safe, clinical, really good, precise extractions, and people are not getting their skin fed.
Where do fillers fit into this conversation? And I know that's more of a wrinkle
That's a detailed question. That's a good question. Fillers are something that create an illusion. It creates an illusion of putting volume back into our skin that we lose through collagen loss and natural aging. They're not healthy for our skin. They're just not. And I'm saying, I might choose to do it at some point when in my 70s and the long-term detriments aren't there, but I'm making the stand and saying, let's just do it with our eyes open. Let's just, when we're making withdrawal from our skin health bank, let's just do it honestly, rather than riding off of like, oh, just because my skin looks better, it is better.
Right.
Because it's not.
Well, so many women I know do fillers. What is it doing to the skin versus the muscle? I've always been.
Well, it stretches and inflames the soft tissue. And then it leaves your skin in this place where it needs more and more filler to look as good. And it is a burden to the skin. It is not increasing skin health 1 inch. And so it's creating an illusion that is decreasing skin health.
Gotcha.
I make this stance of like, okay, we're going to maybe make some withdrawals to our skin with some Botox, with some fillers. We don't have to be there so purist about it.
Right.
But what I'm saying is if we're going to take those deposits, we take the withdrawals, if we're going to be withdrawing, then we need to make deposits. We need to be giving our skin something to sustain, something that's not a deposit. Like it's a wound, it's a burden to the skin. We better be hydrating our skin. We better be feeding it, and we better be bringing equanimity to our skin by stabilizing water levels. If we're going to partake in those things, like that's the least we can do for our skin.
Right. Wow. So eye-opening. We didn't even have an opportunity to talk about toxicity and environmental pollution in the skin and all that other stuff, which I wanted to get into. What is your advice to women who are looking to restore their skin and looking for skincare products that do so? Maybe we have a couple minutes before, before we depart here. What should they be looking at in their skincare ingredients? You've given them a little bit of a guide when it comes to procedures. What about skincare ingredients?
Yeah, I mean, we've reached this place with skincare where we know that toxicity isn't good. And so everybody's cleaning up their skincare ingredients. Awesome. And I'm saying, let's go beyond that. Not only should something be clean, but it should also really be beneficial as well. And so I mentioned the retinaldehyde, I mentioned the phosphatidylcholine. I have to just say these things are not readily available.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I made my skincare line.
Yeah.
But it begins with education, and at least letting people know that there is a better way. The same way I had to figure it out and what I know. Like, it is time to switch tracks. I wrote a book called The Story of Skin in the New Way, Relearning Skincare, The Story of Skin in the New Way, where I lay it all out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's a time of revolution. It's a time where we cannot continue misspending this much money on our skin.
Wow.
There is a better way. We need to reroute how we're spending money and actually receive something, rather than just being dehydrated and older at the end of 50 years of buying products and buying procedures.
Right. You're shutting down the whole beauty industry there.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. It's a big industry disruptor. And I didn't want to see it for a long time myself, because it would have to mean that I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and, 10 years of my time.
Right.
But, the benefits are so worth it. Like, we're all getting into alignment with, real alignment. And I think that's what this is. It's like, we have to just dust ourselves off and say, oh, well, and we need to just begin in the right way.
So are there spas that cater to this sort of philosophy or mentality?
No, there's honestly not. There's me.
Well, we got to clone you, because we got a lot of faces in the world.
Right. There's me and the inventor of the dermal nutrients. And I'm the one that took and repurposed the dermal nutrients and have turned it into a specific method.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's exactly that.
Gotcha. Well, I think this is so powerful for women to hear. We panic about our skin. We pour over our skin, literally. We will do anything, spend anything oftentimes for that illusion, like you're saying, of perfect skin. So it's, again, like so many things, I think it's about the quick fix versus the long-term gain. And
right. I want to say that there is a quick fix with the dermal nutrients. I mean, with the old way, you get a quick illusion. You get inflammation. Oh, my wrinkles are away. Oh, it's this. It's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, from looking at people's skin for this many years, this close under the magnifying lamp, that skin tells me everything.
Yeah.
And it's actually not a quick fix. It's a quick Band-Aid to an illusion. And so people aren't even getting that. I mean, I can take somebody's skin and clean it out, and like, that's a quick fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what could be quicker than actually having, blackheads and milia removed and then get on the home care to keep them away?
Right.
They can remove this stuff and over cleanse all they want, but it's about changing what's happening on a day-to-day basis in the skin so that it becomes self-cleansing, and it doesn't get congested, and it glows and glows and glows because it has access to these dermal nutrients.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us. If anyone, I'm sure you're going to get flooded here. If anyone wants to connect with you and talk about skin even more, who should they?
I hope so.
How do they find
so
you?
much to fix. Like,
I know.
There's a lot to make right.
Yes. How do folks find you?
They can go to my website, www.skinharmonics.com. And I did prepare a special landing page just for your folks. So if you /podcast, there's a special landing page where they can sign up, get access to my book, and get a really awesome coupon. A good one.
Oh, I love that. So that's skinharmonics.com /podcast. And that's for us, guys. That's for all of us listening to this episode of Superwoman Wellness. So check it out and check out some of this incredible information. I know I've been educated today for sure when it comes to trying to understand skin. And I thought I knew a lot about skin already. So just goes to show it's part of why I really love doing this show. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it so much. For everybody else watching, thank you for listening and watching this episode of Superwoman Wellness. Remember, we are on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify as well. And if you post a review and send me a screenshot, you get a free bottle of Boost. We will see you guys next time. Thanks again.